Let me actually look what I wrote. Hold on. Suspected. I should probably read who wrote this, right? There's a bug. Go away, fly. Hey fellow fiction fanatics, I'm Chase. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my December wrap-up. So I was able to read 6 books in December, so let's get into it. The first book I read is My True Love Gave to Me by a number of different authors and edited by Stephanie Perkins. This is a collection of short stories all about Christmas romances, and I really like this book. It definitely got me into the Christmas romance mood. I think my favorites would have to be It's a Yuletide Miracle, Charlie Brown by Stephanie Perkins, and Laini Taylor's story. Laini Taylor's story was incredibly unique and not exactly Christmassy, but I really enjoyed it, and it was out there, but I loved it. These were all just adorable winter romances that really touched my heart, and these really got me into a Christmassy mood. I loved how diverse the couples were. I didn't realize till later on, but when I really started looking at the cover, I realized that they're not just random people ice skating, they're the couples in these stories, and I loved finding each and every one of them as I looked more into the cover. And I think that was really cool that they chose to do that. I didn't really love the first 4 stories in this book. I just felt like they were incomplete. They felt like the beginning of writing prompts instead of a complete story. So those were probably the weakest, but from that 4th story on was superb. That's when it really took off, and I really enjoyed the rest of those. So I gave this book 5 stars. This completed my 4 seasons challenge, which is to read a book that features the seasons in some way. So the next book I picked up is Strange Planet by Nathan W. Pyle. This is a collection of comics about aliens doing everyday things, and it is hilarious. This book constantly had me laughing, and I immediately wanted to show others my favorites. The only thing that I disliked about this book is that I had no idea they were originally online, but I am so glad that I finally had the chance to experience them for myself. And for these reasons, I gave this book 5 stars. So the next book I read is another collection, which is Snow in Love by Melissa De La Cruz, Aimiee Friedman, Nick Stone, and Kasie West. These are 4 winter romance stories, and I really enjoyed 3 of the 4. These were just sweet, adorable stories that put me into a wonderful Christmas mood. So the one story I didn't like, it's not the short story's fault. It's the story it's based off of. It's The Magi's Gift. If you don't know that story, it's about this sweet little couple who very poor and doesn't have money to really give gifts to their loved one. And both of them then decide to give up their most prized possession so that they can give the other one a gift. Unfortunately, they give gifts to each other that were for that special thing that they had. I understand the sentiment. I do. It's supposed to be that gifts aren't as important as those that we love, which is incredibly true. But the way that it's done always just hurts my heart. It's like, yes, sacrificing something you love for someone you love, that makes sense, is sweet. But if you have to watch that someone you love sacrifice something for you, and then unintentionally giving them something that reminds them of the thing they lost, that's just hurtful for everyone. I can't stand that story, and the only adaptation I have ever enjoyed of that story is in the Phineas and Ferb Christmas special. I would still pick up this book if you want to read the 3 really good stories, but unfortunately that one I didn't care for. I actually wish that the 3 stories that I really enjoyed had been in My True Love Gave to Me, and then those 4 stories that I didn't really care for were in this book instead. But that's not how it turned out. If those 4 stories had been in My True Love Gave to Me, it would have been the most perfect collection of winter romances. So for these reasons, I gave this book 4 stars, and it completed my challenge to read a book with a 3-word title. The next book I read is Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger. So this book features Sophronia, who is a 14-year-old girl who is sent away to finishing school because she has just been too much of a handful for her mother, and it's time for her to learn to be a lady. But unbeknownst to her and her mother, this finishing school teaches young women not only to become ladies, but to become assassins as well. I loved that this book had a steampunk sort of vibe that also included vampires and werewolves, but in a non-nauseating way. They were professors, not love interests, so there wasn't any romance involved in that area. In this world, there just happens to be werewolves and vampires as well as, just normal people. Going into this book, I didn't realize that Sophronia would have no idea that this school was training her to become an assassin. When her mother sends her away, she's just dreading the fact that she has to go to a finishing school, when she gets there and learns what she's actually going to be learning about, she's quite excited. But I love that she had no idea going into this and she's just sort of thrown into these situations. And I love that she had like no experience and just has to go with it. But her ingenuity and personality just allow her to adapt, and she finds that she really fits in at the school. This book is definitely on the younger YA side, but I knew that going in. It actually completed my challenge to read a book that is young YA. So I enjoyed it for what it was, and I gave this book 4 stars. The next book I was able to read is Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. This is my first ever Brandon Sanderson. I'm really glad that I picked this up and got to start my adventures in the Cosmere universe. So in this world, everyone has breath, and breath can be used to awaken objects, and the more breath you have, the more powerful you are. In this world, those who die a heroic death come back as returned and are treated as gods in Halandren. So this book features 4 main characters, 2 of which are sisters, one who is sent away to marry the God King in hopes of delaying the war between Idris and Halandren, and the other sister decides that she is going to go after her sister and try to rescue her. And then we have Lightsong, who is a god who doesn't believe in gods. And he is the most hilarious character. He's probably one of my favorites, and I loved him to pieces. And the last perspective we have is a mysterious man who has a magical deadly sword. I really enjoyed these characters. Lightsong was my favorite. He is so hilarious and had me constantly laughing at his antics and his backwards logic, and these characters were so good. The magic system is really cool and is presented in a way that is easy to understand. And I really enjoyed the twists and turns that we saw in this book. The only thing I didn't really like is Vivina. It just took a while for her to actually do anything. I felt like her plot was probably just the weakest of the 4. It wasn't until Vivina figures out the truth that I got fully involved in her story, and everything sort of picked up from there, and I really started rooting for Vivina. So for these reasons, I gave this book 4.5 stars. I did really enjoy this, and I am excited to continue reading Brandon Sanderson's work, and this book completed my challenge to read a book by Brandon Sanderson. And the last book that I was able to read in 2020 is F in Exams, which is another collection. This one is a quirky collection of obviously wrong test answers. This book did make me laugh, so it did do its job when I was reading it. I was looking for the best of the best rather than just a collection of randomly funny answers. There were a few good ones in there, but I wanted a lot more funny than I was presented with. So for this reason, I gave this book 3 stars. So those are all the books that I was able to read in December. I was able to complete my challenge to read 60 books this year. I'd love to know some of the books you were able to read this month, and if you were able to complete your reading goals for this year. Let me know in the comments down below. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to share the love. I'll see you next time. Bye!